Despite only 2 of its projected 3 chapters having been released so far, the Coffin of Andy and Leyley has attracted impressive amounts of both controversy and fans, particularly so considering the game is essentially a visual novel with some minor interactive elements and appears to have been put together in RPG Maker. Nevertheless, it packs quite an impact. In what's essentially a modern gothic horror, the game opens with 20-something siblings Andrew and Ashley who are trapped inside their parents' flat without food for reasons that become apparent as the story unfolds. It's pretty clear that Ashley has severe issues, with her brother constantly imploring her to get her head checked after they get out. Andrew isn't particularly far behind though, with his devotion to his sister compelling him to go along with virtually all of her largely terrible ideas. 90% of the game consists of reading through the highly entertaining conversations that take place between the protagonists and a handful of supporting characters. Although this is text only, the characters are rendered in a visually pleasing, almost manga-esque style that really brings them to life. The physical locations are represented by considerably less aesthetically pleasing, top-down art that's a little too simple. The environments are extremely basic, which is fine when you're simply moving your characters into the next location. Exploration is less interesting, and tasks meted out by the game, particularly in the later throes of the second episode, devolve into dull fetch quests and busy work. The puzzles presented later on are also lacking in complexity, although one near the end is extremely important to the story branches that are promised in the final chapter. Although the game never gets close to being a point-and-click adventure, or really anything other than a visual novel, it's nevertheless extremely entertaining. The writing is absolutely stellar, and carries with it a jet-black, twisted sense of humour that would send Tim Burton running away screaming. The story quite happily trips into some dark places, with your enforced participation in Andrew and Ashley's dreadful yet amusing deeds extending to flashbacks, which reveal the depths of the latter's obsessive and manipulative nature. That these 2 characters remain likeable throughout is a triumph of characterization, not least because the emos are constantly facing a pretty unfortunate set of circumstances foisted upon them. But of course, as with High on Life, it's worth considering that humour is subjective and that a tolerance to dubious deeds is just as vital. This is a story that isn't afraid to go where angels fear to tread, not least when one of the branching narratives makes it clear that Ashley wants to manipulate her brother into a different kind of relationship altogether. One of the many joys of gaming is the ability of games to simulate situations in which you'd never normally find yourself, the list of which now includes banging your sister. Yes, the graphics are basic, and yes, the music is plinky-plonky, but it's rare that a visual novel comes along that's so skillfully written and flat-out original. If you choose to devote a few hours to these incestuous siblings, you'll likely find yourself desperate for the release of the 3rd and final chapter to see where on earth, or indeed in hell, the tale and its twosome end up. So summarising the pros, the top-tier writing and characterisation, the highly original story that remains compelling throughout, very pleasing character art, not overly long, and it has a jet-black sense of humour. And as for the cons, well, the environmental graphics are overly simplistic. Some of the tasks later on in the game feel like unnecessary padding and busy work, and, well, voice acting would have been nice. Overall, though, we're giving the game 88%, which on our review scale is very good.